Decorating Pages podcast presents Production Design Film Study. This class examines Oscar-nominated films spanning a century of cinema. Accomplished professionals in production design will explore and dissect the sets featured in these nominated films and will educate why they were recognized for the design of their time. This class features the films of 1950. This year's films are reviewed by set decorator Kim Wannop and assistant set decorator Ethan Goodwin. The nominated films of 1950 that will be discussed are Sunset Boulevard, All About Eve, Annie Get Your Gun, Samson and Delilah, and Destination Moon. Well, let me start first with why did you pick this year?
Well, 1950 was a no-brainer for me. Whenever you see Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve on the same list, I'm like, oh, easy. Those are two of my all-time favorite movies. They're spectacular from beginning to end. They hold up. I've seen them each at least probably 30 times. Yeah. I had not seen any of the other movies on this list, however, so the other four were new to me. Are hard to hold up to two of my all-time favorite movies.
It's funny too, because in doing this and seeing so many movies I've never seen before, and they're so good. Or they're so bad. But there's so many gems out there that I've never seen. So I don't even know how to pronounce, is it Red Danube or Debonair? Do you think it's Debonair?
I think it's Danube.
Danube.
Yeah.
Oh, I was totally off. Well, so go ahead.
I actually watched that twice. I wanted to like that movie more than I did. I think when I called you on the phone, I said I liked it, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then I watched it again, and
and then you took it down.
Well, I mean, it's beautifully shot, and there are some really great scenes, but I think overall, given the subject matter, I wish it had more of a emotional impact than it actually did.
Well, we have, and out of all of them, it's pretty serious. It's this most serious movie.
Yeah,
it's the rest of them. You got a lot about Hollywood, the circus, and the moon, and then this one is.
I know 1950 was an odd mix of films.
Yeah,
I mean, very eclectic. You have a science fiction, space exploration, a war drama, a musical comedy. It sort of runs the gamut of interests.
Yeah, it was a nice, very rounded. But so three nominated black and white films: All About Eve, The Red Danube, and Sunset Boulevard. And then for color, Annie Get Your Gun, Destination Moon, and Samson and Delilah, which was the highest grossing film of the year. That was like the big movie of the year, Samson and Delilah. Mm-hmm. So I thought we'd do alphabetical.
Okay.
So let's start with All About Eve, which is seemingly timid but secretly ruthless little wannabe inserts herself into the lives of aging Broadway star and her circle of friends. Production designer George W. Davis and Lyle L. Wheeler, set decorators Thomas Little and Walter M. Scott. And this, in timing wise, I had read this book, Oscar Wars, and they did a whole chapter about All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard. So I was so happy because I picked up some tidbits, but even you and I know the movie is so poignant because in Hollywood or, anywhere, any other career, you always have someone who wants to take your place. But especially in Hollywood.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah. And so, we have this aging actress and someone wants to take her place, but it was so poignant in Hollywood because this really was happening. This first generation of Hollywood actors was getting old. Like Gloria Swanson they were old. She was almost, in hiding at that point because she wasn't a star anymore. And so it's so true and so, humiliating in a sense that you're getting older and people are replacing you.
Yeah.
14 Oscar nominations. Yeah, it was the most critically acclaimed movie of the year was this and Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, they're perfect from start to finish. I mean, the acting, the script, the directing, and All About Eve won Best Picture and Best Director that year, right? Even though they didn't win for production design.
I think Sunset Boulevard won Best Picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna double check that, but yeah, or maybe you're right. Am I right? You're right. All About Eve won Best Picture. Yeah, yeah. The the significance between the two also is great because you get to see this is like New York Hollywood, and Sunset Boulevard is like LA Hollywood behind the scenes.
Yes.
And there's so many films that I've watched in this series of dressing rooms, like actors in dressing rooms. And this is one of my favorites.
I love all of the scenes in this movie. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I just like watching people eat and drink and smoke cigarettes and talk, wander around houses in fabulous clothing.
Yes.
And you know, what I notice about the sets in All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard too, probably that a lot of people, you know, we notice things that other people wouldn't notice. I mean, this still you have up right now, for example, of this dressing room. I mean, all the little notices behind her mirror, and I look at lampshades, and you know, having done period, you know, now it's like those are things that are so hard for us to find. It just makes me wonder what filmmaking was like in this year. You know, what the studio prop houses were like that no longer exist. You know, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, that where all of that stuff was auctioned off in like the early 70s, I think.
Yeah.
But it does make you, you know, I watch these movies and I wonder what these designers and decorators had at their fingertips. You know, where were they able to source stuff versus what did they make? And, you know, when you were on studio lot, I'm sure there were tons of craftspeople that worked there that, you know.
Well, they had, it's that studio system. Not only did everyone, like, you know, they had, you know, actors and designers under contract. I mean, the designers, you know, sometimes they have credits of, you know, 500 films because they
did every movie that came through that particular studio.
I mean, Hans Dreyer has credits for 550 art directing credits, including Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity. I mean, you know, that system, and they had, you know, all the carpenters didn't just work on one film, they worked on every film. Today you're on stage 14, today you're on stage 10. And the costumers, so I think you're right in saying, like, they had, you know, their own prop house that they used. And I don't know, I guess if they had to go out and go to somebody else's, they could rent. I don't know. I really don't know what the process was back then of renting other scenery. But I don't either. I love the telegrams, like you're saying, like the telegrams, and then the pipes, like they're down in the basement. You know, it's a stage under the stage to sort of dressing room.
And I think they shot this movie I know they shot the theater interiors in San Francisco, and then I think all the stage work was done at Fox here in LA.
I think so. I think you're right. Let me see. Filming in Manhattan, San Francisco, the Taft Hotel in Connecticut, Manhattan, New Haven, and Stage 11 at Fox. So, yeah.
I always picture it when you watch it. You sort of think, oh, it was all shot in New York.
Yeah, I know.
And there aren't a lot of exteriors on this in this movie.
Well, there's this. I mean,
that one I remember. I
love that poster. Margot Channing, aged in wood.
Aged in wood.
So great.
But I've always wondered about the exteriors where the characters actually live, because you do see. I mean, there are obviously lots of scenes in Margot Channing's. I imagine she lives in a New York townhouse or something. Yeah. But we never do see the exteriors of the homes.
No, you don't see her building exterior.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the dressing room and her apartment was a build. I'm going to assume. And I think one of the restaurants was a build. But her apartment is...
It's amazing. That fireplace, you can just crawl into it. It's so massive.
That fireplace, and unfortunately this lampshade is blocking that seat that comes like, out of the wall. It's so fantastic. I love all the woodwork. But it's not quite, it's not 50s, because this is only probably shot in 49. It was released in 49. So it's really the 40s is what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Which is, a wonderful design era to be in. But I love the sunken living room. I
love the sunken living room.
It's such a wonderful choice in design because she's an actor. And look at it, just this scene where they give you her and then looking down on people.
Yeah. I think it was smart because this is a very long scene, this bumpy ride party scene.
Yeah.
So, but there is a lot of action of her running up and down the staircase and the actor sitting on the staircase and
let's get to the staircase.
And then in that living room pit, it's pretty.
I have the staircase. We'll get back to her bedroom. I mean, the apartment just goes on and on. The staircase is,
I love the art on the stairwell.
I love the shadow that they get off of the railing.
Yeah.
And it's not big. It's not a wide staircase. And in a sense of like, hey, we're going to have this huge scene here. We're going to have 6 people sitting on this staircase at one point. You think they would have made it wider.
I know the rooms in that apartment are not big.
I like that they didn't, though. It's more realistic.
Yeah.
It's better.
It is better.
And look, it just goes down. Like, how big is her apartment?
I want to go all the way down the stairs. I want to see what her foyer looked like.
Yeah. And of course, Marilyn's in it. I mean, it's
such a good movie.
It's such a good movie. I love the kitchen. Seeing old glassware and old bottles and everything is always a joy. And like this, like the metal cabinets, right?
Yeah.
It's great.
Metal cabinets are great.
The sliding cabinets too, like that action where you can dress it and keep it open. And then the tile. But her bedroom, I mean, the quilted headboard with the matching drapery.
Which we love to do.
Oh, yeah.
We love to duplicate that.
Oh my God, yeah.
And look at that lampshade. Again, I'm noticing all the lampshades.
With, like the tiering of it is so fantastic. I wish I could go back and look at that lit. Wonder if I have that. But this film cost $1.4 million to make. That was a lot. I think that was a lot back then. I think. I'm not sure. Seems like a lot. I like that she's the exercise bike in the back.
I have never noticed that. That exercise bike out on her
terrace
balcony. That must be her balcony.
Yeah.
As many times as I've seen this, I've never seen that.
Yeah, well, actors, they got to work out. This is their life. But yeah, it's certainly a great picture to reference for this time period too. Mm-hmm. Of design.
And again, I just wonder how they approached her living space. Since it obviously was probably a full build. I'm just so curious as to what conversations were about the art she would have or the dishes she would have. And
yeah, because the art's kind of all over the place. Look at the scale. Like they're not like, it's not like a set. It's that you kind of usually do up a staircase sometimes, or one big one, or it's kind of all over. But yeah, I love her apartment. And then I don't know if because this whole restaurant, it's pretty big. And then she walks to the bathroom. You see like a huge restaurant. I don't know if maybe that was one of the locations they had, because let me see if it says a restaurant. Taft Hotel. The 21 Club. But that could have been the first and final scene
That's what I was going to ask. Is that the same restaurant
No.
that they go from the beginning where she wins the award?
These are two different restaurants. The top one is when she's winning the award. And the bottom one is the other restaurant, the Stork Club, it says down there.
They look, in the photos, they look very similar.
Yeah. The other sets, like there's like hotel rooms and Eve's dressing room. They don't, this is one of the best things ever. In the end
Eve's
of
apartment at the very end, yeah.
Is it her apartment or is it a hotel room? That's what
I guess it's...
I don't know. I guess it's her apartment.
I can't remember if she's traveling or if she's in New York and that's her actual space.
I think it's her hotel room.
It's a hotel room.
Well,
that would explain the trunks right there in that photo. Maybe
she came into town for the award. But the best part is, she all of a sudden she starts to get stalked by a little wannabe, and this chick right off the bat puts on her robe and her award, and it's like, it will happen to you.
And that actress ended up committing suicide.
Which one?
The one at the very end that befriends her, that wants to become her assistant.
Oh, I don't even know who that is. Who is that girl?
I don't know. I had looked her up once, and it's one of those tragic Hollywood stories, unfortunately.
Jeez, she made it all the way to Best Picture. You think she could have hung on?
Yeah,
it's a sin. I think this is that club.
Oh, right, where Eve wins her Sarah Siddons Award.
Yes, and because there's a lot of detail in those walls. That might be a real room. I don't know.
Okay, again, I've never noticed. Looking at the stills is so interesting because my eyes wander to so many other things during this scene, and obviously there's a lot of floral arrangements, but I've never noticed those guns on the wall below the paintings.
Odd, isn't it? But maybe that's why it is the 21. What is it? 21 gun salute, 21 club. Maybe that's why they have guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd think for this scene, maybe we don't need the guns. Like maybe they could have taken them down a little. But yeah, I mean, I think overall the best design of it is her apartment. I think her apartment is really, and they're in, like you said, like they're in there for like half the movie.
Margot Channing's apartment. Yeah, that is the longest scene. And they make the most use of the space. They are in every room as she gets more and more drunk throughout the night. Yeah.
I mean...
But the decorating is beautiful. I mean...
Yeah. Look at that huge
all
rug.
The surfaces, all the tables. I mean, it does feel appropriate for an actress of her caliber to have all of those things, and they look very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, look at the detail on the vanity, the skirting, and like...
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the lamp lit back there. No, maybe that's a different lamp. And the crystal and like the crystal...
Yeah, the sconces, the chandeliers, I mean...
But not too much. Like, she's an actress, but she's not royalty at this point. It's like...
Right. And it feels very tasteful, unlike Sunset Boulevard, which is so much more over the top.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. All right. Let's go to the next one. The red Danube. I'm never going to get it. Shortly after the end of World War II, British Colonel Michael S. Hookey is assigned to a unit in the British zone of Vienna. His duty is to aid the Soviet Union authorities and the citizens in the Soviet Union. And then there's like so many things. The synopsis of these never got like clearer. And then he tries to help a ballerina escape from. And basically, if you ever like look at this preview on IMDb or YouTube, these actors were told to get out there and promote this movie. Like, we have a phenomenal cast here. The movie's not so great, but we got a great cast. So let's get the cast out there to, like, get out there and hawk this movie, because it's all over the place. Really.
The movie, you think?
Yeah.
I felt like the tone was a bit off. I mean, from the beginning, I couldn't quite figure it out. But like I said, there are some really beautiful shots and some scenes that are really heartfelt. I mean, I liked the relationship between Mother Superior and the Colonel, who's sort of questioning his ideas about religion. But for some reason, every time the story turned back to the Colonel and his aides, and certainly every time they're singing that rounder of Row Your Boat,
yeah,
it just kind of threw me out of the movie. It's almost comical when the movie itself, though, is about such a serious topic. I wish they had just gone for the drama. Right. I love a sad movie, but just make it sad.
Exactly.
Linger on the scenes where she jumps out the window, or the one guy on the list that they're hunting commits suicide. I just felt like those scenes were not as impactful as they should have been, because they cut back to something comical right after that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they didn't know which direction that this wanted to be at all.
Yeah.
And it was apparently a huge disappointment box office wise too. So I guess
I can understand why. But having said that, from a design standpoint, there are some gorgeous shots and beautiful camera work. Particularly when he first sees Marie in the convent, in the chapel, the light coming through the windows, and the convent had a really interesting architecture to it.
Yeah.
Lots of candles, lots of shadows. This movie had a lot of shadows.
The production designer, Cedric Gibbons, was the chief of MGM art department from 1924 to 1956. He helped design the Oscar statue. He has received over 1,500 on-screen credits.
Wow. They must have made movies a lot faster back then.
Yeah, they did. And Cedric Gibbons and Hans Peters, set decorator Edwin Willis, and Hugh Hunt. So, there's a convent, there's a concentration camp, there's this State Department that they're in. First of all, what's his name is playing like a dark-skinned Italian. Makes no sense. What is it? Peter Lawford is like, they put makeup on him to look darker, which was, I thought, crazy. But I loved.
Well, also they don't have any accents.
No, they have no.
Isn't Twingo supposed to be from Scotland?
Right.
They all have very American accents.
I love what's her name there.
Angela Lansbury.
Angela Lansbury, yeah.
She was good. I thought Janet Leigh did a great job.
Yeah. Now
Ethel Barrymore as Mother Superior was really good.
Because I honestly don't know if I've ever seen a movie with Ethel Barrymore, to be honest. I don't know. I never watched that many, I don't think, with her. But this convent had great shadows with really bare walls and not a lot of texture. There's one scene, it's the staircase or something, like that door on the top left, it's all very stark in the convent.
It is stark. It's all about the lighting and shadows, and those windows. I feel like every scene has a window and a candle, and you see everyone's shadows coming up and down the stairs through the hallways.
Yeah, which makes
very moody.
Yeah, it makes for mood and dramatic. And then, like you're saying, all of a sudden they're palling around and
But also the little scene in Maria's apartment, and she's up that giant staircase. There are a couple of really great shots when Twingo is coming back to visit her or after she's kidnapped, and he goes to her apartment looking up that massive staircase, which is pretty cool.
I don't think I have that. I mean, I have this chapel. Which then I start to think, like, was this a build? I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, the stills of that chapel, of course, all you notice is the light coming through those windows. It's such a cool effect.
Because it has, they filmed at MGM, Santa Monica Airport, Rome, and Vienna, and it says backgrounds. So this might have been a build.
Mm-hmm.
This was a build, I guess. I mean, it's huge. It's a horrible still, but they had some real depth there in this camp. All of a sudden, I know that I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, did they build all this? I had to rewind it.
I don't even remember that particular shot.
Yeah, they're driving in. It's so muddy.
That's after she's kidnapped. I remember them coming. I remember them being put on trucks and being driven away.
Yeah, because they try to take her out. They're trying to save the ballerina.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's I think a lot of money went into this. Do I have the budget? The budget was $1.9 million. And it was a disappointment because it only made $900,000. Yeah. I have a note of the her room with the lace curtains, and again top of the staircase. There was a lot of ceiling shots, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Like intense camera angles. And like this one here where they're down low looking up at these people.
Yeah, the camera work and the shots were amazing. I mean, also the shot where Twingo first sees Maria dancing at that opera with the opera troupe. Yeah. That's an amazing scene and really beautifully shot with all the carriages in front of the stage and how he sort of wanders through them.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful.
I don't have a picture of that. Damn it. Yeah, I had that.
That was one of the ones I tried to screen grab that kept coming up. Black, I was going to send you.
When he sees the ballerina, all the carriages. That's what mine says. And I had that acne of the burning buildings. The burned buildings. Oh, the presence of like the burned buildings in the background to show that there was war. Now this, Ethan and I were talking, like one of the best scenes of the film is so dark. Like even when you're I watched it in the dark so that my TV screen would be lighter, and it still is so dark. They go into one of these trains to I don't know why they bring the captain and the nun to the train, like, oh, do you want to help these people or something? And they see the ballerina like in the corner and they pluck her out. But it's a sin. It's a really sad.
They don't even pluck her out, but they realize that she's there. And then they're walking back out to talk to the Soviets, but standing next to the train in the snow, it's another really amazing snowing. Shot.
Yeah. I thought they got her out. You're right. They just say, "Hey, she's on that train."
Well, that was my other issue with this movie is the whole love story and Maria. She keeps disappearing for long periods of time from the film, where you don't really know where she is or what's happening to her.
Yeah, I found this because I thought, isn't it interesting when they color things and the tone, the different tone it gives you.
The lobby cards.
Yeah,
it was almost like they were hand tinted. Even on the Technicolor films on this list, like I looked at the lobby cards for Destination Moon.
Yeah, there's so many.
They're nothing like the furniture is nothing like it was in the actual movie. I mean, in terms of color.
Yeah, it
changed it.
There were so many pictures for Destination Moon that I found that were black and white. And I was like, well, they have all these pictures for Destination Moon, and it's a color movie. And I
saw a lot of black and white photos for Annie Get Your Gun as well.
Yes.
And that was in color.
Maybe because it was a real transition year that they, I don't know. I'm glad that I watched that movie. I wouldn't have seen it. Because I love to see the contrast in a lot of those sets of the color of the textures that they did or did not use, and just getting all of the emotion in there for those emotional scenes. But then it, as you said, it just turns into like
Oh, they just didn't linger long enough on the emotional scenes.
Could have been a good movie.
Yeah. Well, and that character of Catlock was just annoying.
Yeah.
You know, the colonel that they keep reporting to. I mean, I don't know if he was just thrown in for comic relief, but again, some of those scenes just threw me right out of the movie.
There's a sweet little scene between the colonel and the nun, a sad little Christmas, and they have a little Christmas tree. And
I love that scene. I liked all of the scenes with them.
Yeah.
I also liked the shots from the airplanes, you know, out the window when you see Rome, and some of those were pretty gorgeous. I mean, again, beautiful camera work and lighting and shots, but the movie was a little disappointing.
Yeah, great cast.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard, which I think is my favorite of all of these movies, I would say.
Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve will always be a tie for me, but I definitely think of this list, Sunset Boulevard deserved the Oscar 100%.
Sunset Boulevard is about a screenwriter who develops a dangerous relationship with a faded film star determined to make a triumphant return to Hollywood. Production designers Hans Dreyer and John Meehan, set decorator Samuel Comer and Ray Moyer. Now, these, I mean, even in just the list here, Hans Dreyer won 2 Oscars that night. He won the black and white for Sunset Boulevard and color for Samson and Delilah. And you start to think, well, if he's the overhead guy, really, John Meehan probably did this. Or, you know, Walter Taylor probably did Samson and Delilah if Hans was just doing so many at the time, and kind of like Cedric Gibbons. But I have so many notes on Sunset Boulevard that it was like, and I had so many stills. I had to like take it down. I have so many stills of this. First of all, the Franklin and Ivar apartment that they first show this guy living in is still there. That apartment building is still there.
The Aldo Nita apartment building in the movie,
which is always fantastic.
Well, what we love, of course, about this movie, Kim, is that it is about old Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I love, just like All About Eve, I love every set in this movie.
I love it all.
And when they go to the Paramount lot, I mean, you and I have shot there. We did Veep there.
Yeah.
And those little bungalows where they're riding right across from Stage 18. I mean, it's just so amazing to see those in person. I mean, we walked by them a million times, but to see them in this movie from the 50s.
Yeah.
And of course, the exterior looks the same.
Yeah. The gates and everything is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is. You have to, and I don't know if everybody admits it, but if you work in Hollywood, there's no way that when you pass the Paramount gates, or you're walking along and seeing those bungalows, or you're on the Universal lot, that you're not in awe. Because you have to love this business to be in it, otherwise you're nuts.
Well, Paramount is a gorgeous lot and does feel very old school.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the other lots, which I don't love working on, but this house this house is like a character in the movie.
Yeah. So this
house, it has a very interesting history. It was known as the Phantom House, right?
Right.
Because nobody really ever lived there.
Well, when they shot this, it's gone now.
It was torn down in 1957 and replaced, sadly, by a 22-floor business complex.
Yeah. There was no pool there, and they asked to build a pool.
Yeah.
And they let them build the pool just for the movie, which I thought was fantastic.
And I guess the house was decorated. I mean, someone was living there. It was
Right.
J. Paul Getty's ex-wife, but I don't think she lived there for long. So it was a complete.
It was
Well, it wasn't a redress. They built it
right.
on stage, but to match the design of the house.
Right. Because this is a set.
Yeah, this is a set.
Yeah. But there's some spaces like when they're this is it. I have them this like the top. I don't know if that's the location that they are bringing him outside from and everything. That might be a location. When they have the monkey in the when they have what happened? When they have the monkey in the coffin. Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Stop.
Well, I did read in one article that the sets were designed to duplicate every detail of the house, including copies of the original floor tiles in the living room.
Oh, the floor tiles are fantastic.
Yeah.
They are phenomenal. I that's why I have that one overhead shot of the flooring, because they're using real surfaces a lot of times, and that was worth the money, I think, because where's that shot? I mean, even you can see it here, the beautiful the glazed tiles that they had.
Yeah. I mean, that pipe organ.
That pipe organ is fantastic. The lampshades.
The lampshades, the candelabras. I mean, it's just insane, but it had to make an impact when he walks in there, because it looks so decrepit from the outside. He thinks he's pulled into an empty house to park his car.
Right.
And then you walk in and it's like this time capsule home that's just lost in time.
But her letting them use all of her old photos of her, and it makes such a difference. It's unbelievable the amount of narcissism that this actor's just putting out there. Look at those sconces. Oh my god. But the paintings and the pictures and being surrounded by them all the time, just mentally, how the dressing of this leads you into the mind of this character is so fantastic.
Well, and you can see why she slowly goes mad.
Yeah.
Although she does slowly start to leave the house.
Yeah. She's that was after her beauty routine though. Right?
Well, that was after Joe's car gets towed away from the garage, and she dusts off her fantastic car, and they start.
Yeah.
She takes some shopping and everything. She actually has reason to leave the house again.
Right. This too. The screening room in your living room.
Yeah.
With in someone seeing this, in a little town in 1950 must have been in awe.
Yeah.
Just oh my god, you have a movie theater in your living room.
Well, her character is so larger than life. Everything about this movie, it's how can you not love it and just be enraptured by it when you're watching it? It's so engrossing.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, so her assistant is oh my god, I'm forgetting his name.
Max.
Max.
Oh, his real name?
Yeah. Eric von Stroheim was a huge director in the 30s and 40s, and directed Gloria Swanson in some of her movies. So, and later in life he started to act, and what a brilliant character actor he actually is. He's fantastic in this.
He is, but it supposedly did not like doing this movie or regretted it. From what I read, because
of
I don't know if he felt like he was typecast as a butler, but he didn't have I sort of did a deep dive on trying to find information about the sets and locations, and it came up a few times that he had nothing pleasant to say about this movie, and I don't even think attended the premiere after.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's a big party she threw just for him and her.
Yep. She moves all the furniture out of the way and they dance on the tiles.
Big cake and like candles, big buffet. It's just him at the party.
And I suppose Max decorated it all for her.
Yeah, right? I mean,
the flowers, the garland.
Yeah, the garland.
Yeah.
I love the shot through the mirror. The use of mirrors always in films is so fantastic. Usually, like giving a point of view or catching something, the viewer catching something they shouldn't or should, and I love it. I love that. This, I mean, just the dramatics of the shadows that they used. The scene on the bottom is like one of the very first times he sees her in the house, and it's so dark.
It's so dark, and she's got those glasses on.
You know. And it's funny because they don't have that candelabra lit in the foreground a little bit, but they still have a shadow on the wall. Mm-hmm. It is beautifully shot, and here's a contrast of where she first sticks him, the carriage house or out in the garage.
The room above the garage, yeah.
And then
which again is a great little set.
Yeah, for an apartment in Hollywood, yeah. He was living in something much smaller, so... And then poor Max has to go get all his shit and bring it over. The pool when he first...
But you're right, the first scenes in this house are much darker.
Yeah.
There's not as much lighting. I guess as her relationship with Joe develops, everything becomes brighter. She fills the pool.
Yeah. So this is the exterior of Schwab's Pharmacy, which was a famous stop in Hollywood, and then they built the interior. They built the whole interior at Paramount.
Wow.
And then
I know that.
And then just used outside. It's like now, which is kind of funny because it's like the cars are coming dead on into the store. It's like they didn't get sideway cars. Pictures are just coming dead on or something. But yeah, they built the whole counter and everything.
That's amazing. I just assumed that was a location.
No.
And again, now looking at the stills, you never notice that particular angle of the cars look like they're kind of drive right through the restaurant.
Well, and it also looks like it's too high.
Yeah, that is an odd shot.
It's a very odd, yeah. It's weird. This other apartment, I'm going to assume was a build. I mean, you'd hardly see any of it besides the bathroom that they sit and have this private conversation. There's so many people in the party, but it's like a New Year's party he goes to. And the relationship between this young writer and him is fantastic because it's so true to Hollywood of how not mesmerizing, but like how romantic working together can be. And like they're writing something together, and she has a crush on him, even though she has a boyfriend, and he wants anything younger than Norma. I mean,
poor Norma Desmond.
Poor Norman. So here they get to the Paramount lot, which is, as we were saying, just wonderful. This isn't just that gate is there, right? They don't have those buildings there anymore.
Is that the front entrance?
Yeah. The buildings are gone. It's just the
You're right.
gate.
It is. It has changed.
Yeah. So he's walking up like, what is that? Bronx? No. It's that midsection gate off of Melrose. He's walking up that street. Isn't that nuts? That's Melrose.
That looks totally different to me. Yeah, that's odd. But did we actually, I never noticed too watching the film that you see it from that angle. You see him walking up from that angle. I just remember them coming in the car and the guard opening the gates for them. And that feels like the same gate.
Unless this is a gate that was on Gower. You know, like when you turn by the Astro Burger.
Yeah.
Maybe this was a gate over there. Because that street actually doesn't look wide enough to be Melrose.
No, it doesn't. And I don't know what sidewalk he would be coming from if it was Melrose.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in this scene when she goes to visit DeMille, that he's actually filming
Samson and Delilah. Isn't that great? Isn't that fantastic?
Which I didn't know until I watched Samson and Delilah.
He got a $10,000 for his cameo and a brand new Cadillac.
Yep. Boy, these people demanded a lot of money.
I mean, hey, he's smart.
Well, and they wanted Hedy Lamarr in a little cameo too, but I guess she asked for too much money.
Well, yeah, why not? Ask for it all. Here's those little bungalows, which I just
those
love.
Paramount bungalows where the writer's room is. That's, again, a really sweet little set, great scenes.
Yeah, and I think using that, what's there is so genuine, like it's so nice to show the viewers this. And back then, do you know what I mean? Like this was, I'm assuming, one of the first times they're showing the Paramount lot in the writers' rooms, and I don't know, I can't think of anything else when they were, you know, showing this, the behind the scenes like this. It's so great.
Well, and a lot of studios didn't like that this movie was about sort of behind the scenes of Hollywood.
Oh yeah, they gave Paramount a completely different script of what it actually was, and really didn't show the final cut till it was absolutely done, because they did not want other studios to know the premise of the movie and like how badly actors are treated, and or getting all of these older actors turning into psychopaths in their community.
Well, and it had a bizarre working title, didn't it? Something like A Can of Beans or something weird.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Because this bed is phenomenal. So she moves them out of the carriage house once they like get it on, I guess. And you can have the husband suite next to mine.
Yeah, the room that Joe sleeps in next to hers. Yeah, where all the ex-husbands have slept.
So fantastic. Up on a platform. I mean, and it looks right into her bedroom. This still gets me just so happy. Because, not that I think that these colors are real, but the expression on her face, how many candles are on that candelabra, and this lampshade is all you ever need.
Well, honestly, of any piece of furniture in this movie, I mean, aside from that pipe organ in her living room, I think that boat bed that she sleeps in with a giant cherub on it is probably the most memorable piece of set dressing of all.
The boat bed is phenomenal. Norma's bed was originally belonged to French actress Gaby Deisel, and Universal bought it on her deathbed in 1920, and it was used in several movies. But most
at least, 5 movies.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera, it was in.
Madame Bovary, yeah.
It's unbelievable. Do I not have I don't have a wide of it? Oh my God, I'm such a dork.
Yeah, I read that a director bought that bed at auction after the French dancer died that commissioned it. And then apparently, I guess it was acquired by the Paramount Prop House and then loaned out to other movies until the Prop House folded. But again, I would love to have wandered the old Paramount Prop House.
Yeah. Look at that drapery.
Yeah.
The drapery in the bedroom is fantastic. The lampshade, the bed, there
was a lot going on in this house and these sets. You understand why there were 2 decorators involved.
Yeah. Again, another but over the top vanity, like the gildness and the marble and the her beauty routine to try to like get presentable to go like talk to Louis B. Mayle is fantastic.
Because she brought in movie lights.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the lights in that shot that are at her vanity. I mean, she wanted to see her face from every possible angle and lighting condition.
It's fantastic. And then there's the best, another wonderful staircase for one person to come down, basically, and have an impact on all of Hollywood and all of movies. I mean, it's one of the most memorable scenes ever.
Completely. And I did read that she burst into tears at the end of this scene, and the entire cast and crew gave her a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And then they had a party.
And
even though this was not the final scene that they shot, but it's such an amazing scene. Yeah, that long descent down the staircase to the camera.
She took her shoes off because she didn't want to trip, and she tried not to blink. That was the other things I read. But that tapestry, I mean, that's a perfect piece of set dressing, because unless it was ridiculously big, like the same size of the tapestry, when you do a huge portrait there, I mean, your size and everything, and that wall is probably rounded. Like, putting a tapestry there is a much better idea than artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes me wonder what the original Mrs. Getty, how she had this house decorated. I mean, it's such a palatial mansion.
Yeah. And there's the reverse of them watching her come down, tapestries, and like, you know, I think too, showing people like, these are the cameras we're using, these are the lights we have, and yeah, it's so fantastic. It's the best movie. You can't.
Very deserving of the Oscar, at least of the three up for black and white.
Yeah, I definitely think of the three, the design of this is impactful going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, it served the story way more so than the other two films in this category.
Yeah, and I try to also look at what other movies were nominated that year, or like, you know, popular that year, and there's nothing else sort of stuck out to me as like, oh, that should have been nominated for black and white film for production design. But on the other hand, I don't know a lot of them either. Like, I never watched The Furies or Asphalt Jungle or King Solomon's Mines, which won for cinematography, which usually cinematography and production design go hand in hand a lot of times. So a lot of the movies I haven't seen, I tried to look up some and be like, whoa, look at all they did. But I just think Sunset Boulevard should have won anyway.
Yeah. It was very deserving.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Now we're in color. Look at this. Going to color.
Technicolor.
Boy, I did not like this movie. Annie Get Your Gun, the story of the great sharpshooter Annie Oakley, who rose to fame while dealing with her professional rival Frank Butler. Production designers Cedric Gibson and Paul Gross, and set decorators Edwin B. Willis and Richard A. Parafel. I don't know. It wasn't...
I'm not a huge musical fan.
No.
I mean, again, this movie looks, I mean, the Technicolor is amazing.
Yes.
The sets and costumes. I found with the three movies in the color category are very, they're very set-like, you know, it's almost like you're watching a play. I mean, you can see why this movie was a play, but same thing with Samson and Delilah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of outdoor sets in Annie Get Your Gun.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that hotel is beautiful. There are a lot of scenes outside that hotel. I mean, that giant wraparound porch is gorgeous. I mean, clearly a lot of work went into this movie. I mean, it was a huge the scale of the production must have been enormous.
Yeah, the budget was $3.7 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the costumes alone, it says it only has one, which can't be right. It only has one filming location listed, and that's MGM Studios. But there's so many exteriors here. They must have gone to like Pomona and did like the circus stuff. But this to me is like some of this is painted, like the painted backdrop, and then
you can tell there are backdrops in a lot of this.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it was, I mean, most of it was probably done on a stage.
Yeah.
But that hotel is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the detail around the porch and the columns are beautiful.
And she sings that song, Do What Comes Naturally, which is basically like rape, stealing, being dumb. Like, it's just like,
oh God,
this movie could not be made today. Let's put it that way. Like,
most of these movies, Kim.
Yeah. But this hotel, though, you don't really go inside, do you? We only go on the exterior and the lawn, and like we only look in these windows.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me think the top was like painted or something, painted on. See, like they have these huge outdoor circus areas, and oh my God.
Well, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, I mean, that's the takeaway from this movie for me, from a design standpoint. I mean, the overview of that set, where you have all of the tents and the band set and the stage work and the bunting. I mean, we know how difficult it does look like a circus. We know how hard those sets are to do.
LA Circus still has those bare. You could go right
but the attention to detail for this set is pretty spectacular too. I mean, the tassels and the fringe on all the tents and the colors look beautiful.
Yeah. I
mean, compared to the black and white films, you can see why these were so popular. If nothing else from a visual standpoint.
I think visually this is a fun movie. And I keep going, they weren't nominated for costume, which I think is crazy to me, because it's a huge production to get all these background people in costumes, and even, circus goers and people in the circus. Look at all those tassels and cowboy. And then they go on to like the little Indian side, and that's like all the teepees, and they designed, and like all of the Native American pieces that are very exaggerated.
Yes, very exaggerated
for this film. They try to make her a little Indian girl. This ship set was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is crazy. And again, like using it against a painted background, or I don't know. But there's a guy up there. I don't know.
Well, it does look again like a stage set, which some of these movies, you just sort of have to put yourself in the time period. I mean, it looks like I'm at Disneyland, but you wonder what the audience in 1950 thought of these sets.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they were even supposed to look realistic.
Yeah. Well, true, because what is it, 1955? You look at like something like Guys and Dolls that like really like crosses their visual line back and forth from like a stage to a real to a movie, a stage play to a real movie. Like,
right. Which again is what's so interesting about this particular list of movies for this year, is that, Sunset Boulevard or All About Eve, a lot of those sets look like locations you could have just wandered into, even though we know they were stage builds.
Yeah.
Whereas the films that were in Technicolor for this year all look like unrealistic stage sets.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But the color is amazing.
Yeah. They have this like ballroom set, which was really nice and pretty and gilded and pretty drapery. The train car set is sweet. Again, like the painted background.
That amazing sunset.
Yeah.
That painted backdrop.
Yeah. I couldn't.
I wanted to see more of the train car. Of course, they go outside
I
to
know.
sing that song.
They don't go in, right? We don't go in.
Well, you see a snippet from them walking out of the train car.
Yeah. I have to fault myself with not taking screenshots of this while I watched it. But it was...
This one was hard to find.
Yeah. It was hard to find. We found it on some like rogue website to even watch. It's not even available on like Amazon or Prime or anything to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of know why. The messages going on in this movie are basically like, "Hey girl, dumb yourself down. Don't be the best. He's not gonna want you." And then when she finally does beat him, and he gets all sore, she's like, "Nah, it's okay. I won't do it anymore. So then we can get married." Like it's not
the poor heroines in all of these movies. It's like, yeah, she has to pretend she's not as good as he is, so that he'll stay with her.
They're giving her all these awards. Look at how many medals they gave her, and he's like, "No thanks. I don't want you anymore." It's a sin. So, and all she does is want to be with him. It's a sin. But yeah, it is kind of that Pretty Woman type, like, rags to riches story, and she's at first she's all dirty, and then she's all...
It was the same thing in the Red Danube. That Twingo guy, as handsome as he is such a lecherous man. When he finally, Mother Superior basically presents Maria the ballerina to him, it's like, are you running a convent or a brothel here?
Right.
He just expects that she'll go out with him.
Yeah.
It's such an odd setup.
It's a lot of expectations of women back then, of like, look at
the
this.
Same thing in Samson and Delilah. I kept watching that the whole time I was watching that. I was like, Hedy Lamarr is so gorgeous. Why the hell is she pining away after Samson, who is such a drip?
Seriously. Oh, he's a caveman.
Yeah.
Here's your favorite movie. Let's move on.
Destination Moon.
Destination Moon is after their latest rocket fails, the scientists have to start over again, and this time they approach a Newman to head up their aviation construction to take them to the moon. And then as soon as they get to the moon, all shit goes bad and they got to get home. Like, this
movie was really hard to get through.
Production designer.
This movie does not hold up for obvious reasons, but again, you have to take yourself out of modern day and think, what did the 1950 audience think of this movie? Because it did well, I think.
Well, I'll tell you this. Well, first of all, production designer Ernest Fedgit, set decorator George Swally. The budget on this film was $592,000.
Wow.
Let's just put it that way. They shot at Lockheed Martin. They shot in New Mexico, and they shot at the General Service Studios, which used to be on Las Palmas. It starts out with like a Woody Woodpecker commercial, first of all. It's so weird.
Well, that was odd, that commercial. But and I read when I was reading up on this movie, NASA actually updated and then used that same Woody Woodpecker cartoon to
get people
basically explain space travel to the public.
Yeah. So there is an interesting Woody Woodpecker cartoon.
There is. It sort of comes out of nowhere, but there was a lot of explanation in this movie.
Yeah.
But it is credited as being one of the first sci-fi movies, which became very popular in the 1950s. Even though there is no sort of like, love interest or romance or weird moon creatures in this movie. It really is just about getting the rocket to the moon.
Right.
But honest to God, Kim, this movie, the only thing it was missing was like Joel Hodgson and his two robots from Mystery Science Theater 3000 just silhouetted at the bottom making fun of it. Somewhere along the line, this movie had to have been on that show because it is so...
I'm sure they referenced it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
This movie was the first film to have a computer in it. It won Best Visual Effects. I don't know. It lost me. This lost me.
The scene where they're going up into orbit. They don't even have helmets on. But yeah, that was a terrible effect. Whatever they had taped to their faces that was sort of pulling the skin, it's laughable. Again, this is such a hard movie to watch now and not think it's just completely ridiculous.
Especially after, now, Ethan did 2 seasons of For All Mankind, and I've just finished 1 season of For All Mankind. So
we know what it's like to walk onto a soundstage and see a lunar landscape or a moonscape. You know, this is not. Although I will say, I mean, once they finally get to the moon, there is a really cool shot when they're coming off the spaceship.
But wait. But let's talk about the design of these chairs. It's a bunk bed type situation here. So I'm sure they said, we want it designed so we can see all of their faces at once when they take off, and we have the gravitational pull of their faces. Now, what it shows is they must have inflated these like leather seats. And then while they're trying to show you that they're going up and the gravity's getting, G4 or whatever, they start to deflate these chairs. And the actors' faces are like, let me see your best anguish. Let me see pain, without like talking. Like to watch it just for this scene alone is to get a good laugh. It's kind of worth it. It's kind of worth it. But yeah. The spacesuits are ridiculous, and the color choices.
I mean, they look like Jolly Ranchers.
They're ridiculous.
It also seemed like it was worse than like a bad episode of The Twilight Zone. It just was such an odd that this was a feature. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But they got a lot of gauges. They got like the metal.
The filmmakers hired technical advisors on this movie.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean,
but if you're trying to make an honest movie about the potential for space travel, I'm just not sure why they had that character of Joe Sweeney in the mix at all. I mean, to be one of 4 men on a rocket launch to the moon and clearly know nothing about about space travel. I mean, he was just thrown in for comic relief, but he was so annoying.
But the other thing is, I mean, that's a character they didn't want, and put it strictly in there for a comedic role. But this is 13 years before we actually get to the moon. So it is innovative, I think, in...
Yeah, I think audiences of that time were mesmerized by it.
I mean,
and this shot that you have up when they first land on the moon is pretty cool. I mean, I would have loved to have walked onto the stage and seen that set.
Yeah, like the bottom of your rocket on this sort of landscape. That is kind of cool. And then I thought, well, they did their best here. Like,
Mm-hmm. And that backdrop is so cool. Now, I did read that there was a artist, Chesley Bonestell. Did you read about him?
No.
He was like an astronomical artist, I guess, of the
and he painted
late 30s and 40s.
Right.
So they actually hired him to do this. It was a 13-foot long panoramic view of the moon mounted on wheels.
Right.
And they put 534 holes in the backing to shine light at the actors. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, clearly they spent a lot of
their
time
budget on that.
And budget on the moon. And I think it had a cool effect in a very sort of psychedelic kind of way.
Yeah. I think that's the one back there you're referencing. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that stat is actually right about the budget. This seems like it would cost a lot more to do all of this.
I thought I had read somewhere the budget was like 600,000, which still wasn't a lot, and didn't give them a lot of room to play with special effects. I mean, some of the props on this are very silly. And
I mean, look at how dinky that ladder is. You're not getting on and off your spaceship on that.
When they start, it really lost me when they start. They literally pick up screwdrivers and start unscrewing parts of the rocket so that they can get off of the moon.
Right. They need to make it lighter.
And you just see those pieces falling onto the moon's surface. It's like, well, if all it took was a screwdriver to disassemble this rocket ship, I don't know how you guys ever made it to space in the first place.
Or, like, they get to the moon, and within like 2 seconds, there's a problem, and they have to get back. Like their window is closing. Like they don't even get to enjoy that they've been on the moon.
Right.
Like, it's a very weird script, but like this shot's cool. I know it was innovative, and I know it must have been something to see at the time. It must have.
Yes, even though the characters were pretty dull.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of action. I mean, it was pretty slow, right?
Yeah, it was pretty slow. And then,
I mean, I would have enjoyed if they had landed on the moon and there'd been a whole nother, some
moon people,
Martians there that they had to fight or something.
Yeah. Apparently you can still buy this there's Destination Moon people out there. You can still buy this.
A replica of their rocket?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's fans. Wow. There's fans of this movie, Ethan. We're not being fair.
I don't need to see this movie ever again.
We never will. We evolved, but that is probably a film that 2001 space designers looked at and probably said no, but it's still referenced as like a space movie of, one of the first times it was done. So you got to applaud them for being one of the first. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the Jetsons around then, so I don't know.
Well, and no one knew what the moon looked like. I mean,
yeah.
They had to make it all up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Our last film is Samson and Delilah. When strongman Samson rejects the love of the beautiful Philistine woman Delilah, she seeks vengeance that brings horrible consequences that they both regret. Yeah, no shit, girl. It's always it's always Eve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always Eve. Production designers Hans Dreyer and Walter Tyler, and set decorators Samuel Comer and Ray Moyer. So this one for production design. This also was the highest grossing movie of the year that year. And I was more fascinated with the costumes in the movie done by Edith Head, but there's not that many sets in this film.
No, there's not a lot. Again, of the three films that were in Technicolor, I do think this one was deserving of the Oscar of the three. Again, it's beautiful Technicolor.
Yeah.
The costumes are great, like you said. The sets. The main thing I noticed about the sets, of course, is the drapery, the embroidery, the tassels. I mean, I think they obviously manufactured a lot. I mean, again, it makes me wonder what kind of sources they had. But again, it's very set-like, very, I mean, the final scene where Samson is pushing those stone columns down.
Yeah.
Just
that's the only.
So ridiculous.
I know. That's the only.
It all looks
really
so fake.
About. I mean,
I imagine this scene where they're playing around in the lagoon is even a stage set.
Oh yeah, I think it's all.
Yeah, it's
Let me see. I believe it's all stage work. Well, they filmed Alabama Hills. So they had some exterior shots. Algeria, Morocco. Oh. And then Paramount, of course, because it was next to Sunset Boulevard,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it cost $3 million to make, and I think it made $28 million to date.
Mm-hmm. It is a gorgeous movie to watch. I mean, the jewel tones, it's again really high production value, obviously, and a lot of money and work went into it. If you can get through the story.
Yeah. This is the star of the show. This dress by Hagamar of real peacock feathers that I read the director had a peacock in his backyard and would pick up all of the feathers that would come out of this thing to
help, and he saved it to make that dress for her?
To help, give, because it's all real peacock feathers.
Yeah.
So Delilah's peacock gown and cape included 2,000 gilded peacock feathers. It took 12 women 3 weeks to finish.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the gown she wears in the final scene?
I don't think it's the final one. She's got so many. I don't know if it's let me see. Look at that door back there though. That was good. But a lot of the sets are very the stonework and everything, and then you have the dressing of the bags of wheat and all that. But yeah, the tent work, there's some beautiful tents. And then
it's all about the fabric and the drapes and the swags and the pillows, which are all gorgeous. I'm sure it took a lot to create all of that. Yeah.
All of the different textures that they're showing that she was rich versus, the poor people. That's very well achieved in this.
There were also a lot of really beautiful painted murals on the walls, I noticed when I watched this film. And like on the, standing floor vases and stuff. A lot of painted motifs.
Yeah.
The murals were quite impressive.
There's so many costumes for this chick. On the left, there is a scene where they've put Samson. She finds out that he's only strong because he has long hair. He tells her a secret. So what does she do? She cuts off his hair, and then they put the poor guy in slavery. There is a fantastic he's turning the wheel set, and you can kind of see the wheel in the background there. They had to build that whole thing where
he's put into slave labor.
Yeah, slave labor, turning the wheel to grinde wheat or whatever.
Well, that's when she discovers that he's blind.
Yeah.
He can't see her.
And that really gets her.
That really lets her down.
She's really pissed then when he can't see her sadness or her happiness. But there's a lot of rocks. A lot of the sets are rocks, which, that's what it was. But this is their big set, which took 2 stages, I read.
Oh, wow.
The temple scene was shot in 8 days with 600 extras. The enormous set occupied 2 stages at Paramount, 14 and 15, which we had on Veep. That was those two stages that combined each other. Isn't that crazy? We were there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is a crazy thing because they built this whole thing and then they have to make it fall.
Uh-huh.
And you see it kind of fall, and all the big pieces of building are coming down and crushing all the people, and it was cool.
There are a lot of weird cuts in this movie too.
Oh yeah.
Where it's it's almost like it's a little jarring though. It's it doesn't quite. I noticed in this final scene too.
Especially in the final scene.
A lot of weird jump cuts where you'll see someone's reaction and then it's almost like they shot it a different day of the debris falling.
Well, yeah, I guess so. What is it? How many days? It took 8 days.
Another set I would love to have wandered into. I'm sure this looked spectacular even on the stage, just the scale of it.
Yeah. Look at the scale of this. It's one person, and he's this is how he tears it down. He gets his strength back, and then he moves the columns. It is cool. Cecil B. DeMille, yeah. And then there's one of Edith Head's sketches. I think you're right. I think she was in the peacock for the final scene.
Mm.
I don't know if we can see. There's some very nice fabric being draped on the...
Everything was very clean in this movie. I noticed even the costumes on the warriors and the armor and stuff were all completely gold. Yeah. I mean, look at their shields.
Yeah,
they looks like they've never entered a fight in their lives. They're not dented. It's like they're shiny and glossy.
Yeah.
It was also interesting to me. It was so funny that George Sanders was in this movie. I kept thinking, how did Addison DeWitt from All About Eve end up in Samson and Delilah?
Isn't that funny?
Didn't you notice that? I mean, he has the same voice even.
Yeah, it was weird. But they're actors.
And Angela Lansbury.
And Angela Lansbury had two this year. Yeah. They were just, cranking them out.
Well, clearly popular stars of the time.
And again, I don't think I had ever watched a movie with Hedy Lamarr.
I have not seen much with her either. She reminds me a lot of Vivian Leigh.
Yes, very much. But the costumes in this are the real...
The costumes are great, and she did a great job.
Yeah. I know. I could see how this would win. I don't know. I mean, Annie, Get Your Gun. There's a lot going on there, too. This just has the big ending, really.
I think these sets were probably larger in scale, more impressive.
Yeah. Annie, Get Your Gun had a lot more sets, I'll tell you that, than this. This had the father's house, the Samson's house, the jail. I don't know. Oh, well, yeah.
Did it really? Gosh, I remember more of these sets than Annie Get Your Gun, though.
I mean, this is very impressive of how they pulled this off, so I could see why it would win. But again, I mean, it's all impressive, really, because it's kind of the first, this is done oh my God, is it 70 years ago?
Well, it's so hard to compare them because they're all so different, too.
Yeah.
Each of these movies.
But yeah, you picked a great year.
Well, I appreciated them in different ways, but
yeah, I'm glad.
Still, the reason I picked the list, if anyone has not seen All About Eve or Sunset Boulevard, those are the two movies that are tried and true, will not disappoint however many times you view them.
No. Because
and they hold up.
Yeah, they hold up, exactly.
Not every movie holds up. That's the big thing.
They hold up story-wise. They're good stories. And they're great. They're greatly acted. And then all of the creative around it is impressive. All of the sets and the costumes and the lighting and all those two films are classics, I think, because everything works in them.
Everything, yeah.
Annie Get Your Gun, not a classic.
Not a classic. And Destination Moon. Well, I guess for some people, but
I wonder if they referenced that. I wonder if Dan Bishop was referencing it for All Mankind. See, you never know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. If he did, he went the other way, which was good.
Yeah.
It was very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this and putting the time in. I know
it was fun. I enjoyed watching films I hadn't seen before.
It is fun to watch, and then it's fun to compare and be in awe of who came before us.